If we look back 70 years, I think no one could have anticipated that Israel would be where it is today.
Such a small nation has become such a significant player in global economics and politics.
Singapore and Israel have a very strong relationship. Since the very beginning, we are united in times of uncertainty, and we have arrived in such an amazing place. It's absolutely been fabulous.
Thank Israel for your help and support over the years, and to see for myself developments in Israel which we follow closely from a distance.
This year, in 2018, we celebrate 70 years of independence for the State of Israel, which has been nothing short of a miracle.
On 14 May 1948, the new nation of Israel forges ahead with its newfound independence. With little to no resources, it pressed forward into a time of uncertainty. Vulnerable and surrounded with conflicts, Israel was left to fend for itself.
When they became a nation in 1948, they returned to a very barren desert that had no natural resource. When Israel was born as a nation, they had to fight literally for their survival.
Israel was born from uncertainty.
It's the same with Singapore. In 1965, when we gained independence, we were a sleepy British port, and we also had our share of difficulties, riots, interracial riots, all kinds of problems. But look at what has happened in the last 53 years. It's gone through a complete transformation and become a first world nation. Look at what Israel is today. It's like the Garden of Eden. They've turned it around through hard work, through technology, through innovation. They've made a barren desert become a beautiful garden.
The biggest similarity between Israel and Singapore is their unlikely existence. The fact that they arose from racial and religious tensions, somehow both managed to make it work, despite all the challenges from within and without.
I believe that some of the similarities between Israel and Singapore are creating an identity, the importance of creating the Singapore identity in the same way that Israelis have to create the Israeli identity of a fledgling state, the cultural and religious diversity that you find in Singapore, which is just overwhelming and awesome, is the same diversity that you see in Israel, a strong sense of pride and nationalism.
My thought about the history of the State of Israel in 7 years is really about a kindness, a tremendous kindness that the Almighty did with the Jewish people to bring us back in our own land.
The two nations forged a strong bond that was unique in its own way. When Singapore gained independence, former Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew recalled approaching Britain, India, and Egypt for military advice. It was Israel who responded and laid the foundations for a reputable Singaporean defense force.
Few people really know the extent of the relations that you have between Israel and Singapore.
It was the Israelis that came to our aid when we were a nascent country looking to build up our armed forces. So there was a lot of bilateral trade, defense, a lot of sharing of information.
In the early 20th century, Singapore welcomed the early Jewish migrants with open arms. In many ways, the first Jewish settlers contributed in building much of modern Singapore. From spearheading the charge for independence with David Marshall, to the founding of schools and the local botanical gardens. With Singapore offering both religious freedom and economic opportunity, the early Jews settled in an island that was set to play a major role in the early developing world.
The first Jewish settlers came into Singapore in the 1800s, and since then they have been a very integral part of our society.
Singapore is a nation that is very welcoming, very friendly, intrigued by other people, intrigued by other people's identity. From my own apartment, I can see a mosque, a church, a temple, and a synagogue, which is incredible.
Well, I arrived here with a small family. My eldest daughter was then 6 months old. When we arrived here, we had all our children here. I've seen changes. I've seen, I should say, positive changes. The fact that things have progressed in the right direction. Ever since my involvement with the interreligious organization, I've enjoyed very intimate and amazing relationships with the leaders of all the different religions in Singapore.
Over the years, many members of the Jewish community have formed an inseparable bond with the local Christians, partaking and celebrating each other's festivals and cultural backgrounds.
Jews and Christians are partners. In Singapore, we could see this coming together in the most amazing way. We find that Israel and Singapore share so much in common is in terms of the family values.
I think the Christian community and the Jewish community are very tightly knit here in Singapore. We have a lot of events where both Christians and Jews attend. When you go to the Independence Day celebration, you'll find many Christians there because of our support for Israel.
I feel that Singapore community only wants to see success, and that success of schools and religious communities. At SMMIS, we are a culturally diverse community. And one of the things that we're committed to at SMMIS is interfaith work.
It's interesting that in the Old Testament, Israel celebrated three main feasts: the Feast of Passover, the Feast of Pentecost, and the Feast of Tabernacles. In Singapore, we celebrate these feasts as well.
If you come to a synagogue on Saturday, you will see that a very prominent moment during the services when we bless the state of Singapore. And when we express our gratitude to Singapore for having hosted the Jewish community and allowed the Jewish community to thrive. I felt a warm embrace. I felt part of Singapore from day one. There was never a moment where I felt that there was something which made me feel uncomfortable living in Singapore.
Israel and SMMIS in particular are incredibly grateful to the Singapore community for the support that Singapore has always shown to the Jewish community and the Zionist community and to Israel in Israel's development. We're incredibly grateful and incredibly humbled by what Singapore has given us.
The very thought of a Jewish state for my grandparents, back over 70 years ago, was it was not something that they could ever dream would ever happen. I've never looked back. It's been a real blessing. I look very much forward to a bright future of cooperation together, shared achievements, shared goals together.
On behalf of all the students and staff of SMMIS, I would like to wish Israel a huge Mazal Tov for all of its developments and achievements to date. And I pray and hope that you will grow from strength to strength.
I want to congratulate the nationhood of Israel on her 70th anniversary. It's a big deal, and we salute you, the people of Israel. I believe that the bond of friendship between us, the Christian community here, and the Jewish community will be stronger. We hope and bless you. We want to thank you for being such a blessing to us, and we stand with you, support you, and pray for you.